welcome to Edison TV. Now, today we're meeting again someone that we've already encountered before at Edison, someone with a really unusual company. So meet again Phil Gomez of SIGA, and SIGA Technologies, and this is extraordinary, is a pharmaceutical company that develops treatments for diseases that don't exist, for a market that doesn't exist, and products that you hope you're never going to use. Phil, I think you better explain.
Thanks, Vivian, and thanks for having me on again. So, as you mentioned, we're a small pharmaceutical company that's focused on infectious disease for a number of years in antimicrobials and antivirals, and our lead product, in fact, is a treatment for smallpox, a disease that no longer exists on the planet. But our R&D team collaborated with the US government to develop that treatment using animal models to be able to evaluate efficacy and evaluating it in humans to prove that it would be safe and we could have the same pharmacokinetics. And since it is a product we hope we don't ever use, it doesn't have a commercial market either. So again, we partnered with the US government on sales. And in fact, this year we've announced sales to the Canadian government as well to stockpile in the event of smallpox or other orthopoxviruses being released. And we're really excited that we've recently announced a partnership with Cipla Therapeutics, and I'm happy to have Garrett Ingram join today to talk about that partnership because, as you'll hear, novel antibiotics sort of fall into that category. We want to make sure we have them available for resistance when it emerges, but we need to develop them in ways to ensure that they're there when we need them, because if we do need them, they'll be a critical issue. So thanks again, Vivian, for having us on to talk about the partnership.
Garrett, welcome to Edison TV. So tell us a bit more about Cipla, first of all.
Be happy to. Cipla's been around since 1935. It's a global pharmaceutical company that focuses both in generics as well as branded products across the globe, and has, over 15 types of doses and 1,500 different types of products, both branded and generic. As I said, we have over 46 manufacturing capabilities across 6 countries. It's just an amazing company, over 25,000 employees. And it has a long, rich history globally in antimicrobial resistance and leadership in that area with antifungals, antibacterials, as well as antivirals. And it was, again, the company was founded in 1935 by the Hamid family. And very interestingly, you may have known this history, but in South Africa in the 1990s, there was quite a pandemic of the AIDS virus and HIV, and hundreds of millions of people were dying. And Dr. Hamid went to the UN and announced that they would make the triple treatment for HIV and AIDS available to all the African countries for less than $1 a day. It took a few years, but it was accepted, and largest producer of HIV products, as well as different suspensions for pediatrics. And basically, they really helped change that whole trajectory of HIV and AIDS in South Africa. So they have a long history, Cipla, of being a humanitarian as well as a triple line focused organization. So I'm very proud to be with this organization. It continues to be dedicated in this area. In addition, in 2016, the Davos antimicrobial declaration, they signed that. They were also celebrated for their efforts globally for educating physicians on the appropriate utilization of antimicrobial products and antifungals, and they continue to be a leader within the globe and in the US in respiratory and AMR and trying to change that. In 2019, we acquired a product called plasmamycin. Very excited to have that join the US and global rights for that, ex-US, with the exception of China, for complex urinary tract infections. So a very important treatment for infectious disease specialists in the United States as well as globally.
Now, Phil, AMR, antimicrobial resistance, is been sort of ticking away in the background, and it's a hugely significant problem. tell us a bit more about antimicrobial resistance generally, and how this partnership of yours with Cipla is going to look at or focus on it.
Yeah, and there's been a lot published on the space. So essentially the challenge is bacterial infections eventually develop resistance to antibiotics. We need second, third, fourth generation ones to treat them. The challenge for pharmaceutical companies is the best thing to do with a new antibiotic is leave it on the shelf until you really need it, so sales don't happen in the short term. So in essence, as I talked about with smallpox, it's a commercial market that's quite challenging. The US government, in an effort to ensure preparedness threats, and those are things that could be purposefully used in an attack, like anthrax, plague, tularemia, things that are quite deadly and historically have been thought of as bioterror agents, are also things that could be susceptible to antibiotic resistance. So they've started to look at developing products for those pathogens and stockpiling them. And in fact, in 2018, they did a contract to develop a new novel antibiotic in this space. And so given Cipla's rich history here and our experience with developing products for diseases that don't exist out in the natural environment through animal models, we thought and believe this partnership could provide real value to the US government as they seek to expand the products they have in their armament to go after some of these pathogens that we hope never get released into the environment.
And from your point of view, Garrett, what is the relationship with SIGA that brings so much to this partnership together?
Well, I think that our organizations complement each other incredibly well with the deep scientific and R&D experience that Phil and team bring to the table, as well as their partnership with the US government, really help us to offer things forward that haven't been brought forward in the past. And I would say, between the CDC, NIH, all the different ASPR organizations that are really trying to protect for these things that have not happened. We look back on this past year and how we responded. Our ability to leverage the assets as well as the people, and really the people behind these compounds, is really critically important. And instead of going out and developing a new competency, I did a lot of research, and Phil and I connected, and it really was a perfect partnership to bring their expertise together with ours to be able to deliver solutions for the US and beyond. So we're very excited about the partnership and what each of us brings to the table. And again, excitement about what the future holds for us to be able to bring other solutions to the marketplace.
I want to come to that. But Phil, just tell me, do you think that COVID has really concentrated people's minds, governments' minds, about coming threats?
Yeah, so I do think, Vivian, we do have a long tradition for BARDA and ASPR and our Strategic National Stockpile in the US thinking about these threats, have been focused on it a long time. But I think the awareness and the support has broadened substantially given the events of the last year. I think we've all realized the power of an infectious agent, not only to have impact on morbidity and mortality, but on the economies and on global life. And so we hope that there'll be greater recognition of the importance of bringing these products and recognizing that preparedness is a lot less expensive than response. If we have things that are available to be able to go after these types of infectious diseases early in an outbreak, we can stop them before they spread globally. And so we're pleased to be working with Cipla to be able to respond to BARDA's interest in the future. We anticipate there will be a request for proposals over the next few months. They've indicated that late last year, and we'll work together to find a solution that we think is compelling to help them meet their needs.
And what's next in the pipeline for you two together? I can see the beginning of a beautiful partnership that goes on to many other things.
Well, I think there are a lot of things that we're exploring, and there's more to come in that area. I just want to touch on your comment about COVID. There's a great quote I read over the last month, and it's from Kevin Outerstein, who's executive director of CarbonX. And it's AMR is not a tsunami like COVID. AMR is like a melting glacier where the doom you're in. So this is a well-recognized concern globally as well as in the US. And the US really wants to be in a position of leadership to protect, U.S. citizens against any of these current and long-term threats. We have close to 3 million people impacted and diagnosed with AMR, which is the antimicrobial resistance, and about 35,000 deaths that result directly from that are recorded. In addition to that, patients that get C. diff, which I don't know if you're familiar with C. diff, but patients that take strong antibiotics sometimes have a reaction with this C. diff that causes about 12 to 13,000 deaths a year. So it's quite significant, and we're seeing that expand. And I think Phil said it best: is there's not enough solutions to address our current threats, and there's not enough solutions for the unknown threats. So we're trying to prepare for both, and I think there's a lot of opportunity to figure out options for those.
Well, it sounds to me like a great partnership, and I think one that's going to deliver lots more in the future. And thank you for your efforts in this area. I think the whole world has reason to be grateful.